This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're in Lakewood, Colorado. I'm here with the artist Kelsie. Since 1999, this diverse multimedia artist has been creating art that you will feel. Kelsie, thanks so much for joining us here today. Let's start off really a little bit about yourself. I mean, professional artist around the year 1999, but I would imagine it was many years before that you felt the need to create. Tell me a little bit how this journey started for you.
Well, really, as a child, very, very young, I started creating. I really can't even remember when. When I was very young, I lived on a beach in Maine, and one of the things I would do is paint rocks, and I would sell them to the tourists. So very young, pre-10 for sure. And just my whole life, I've been very creative, and whether it's paint or drawing or creating sets.
What year, I mean, quite honestly, the definition of a professional is somebody who sells their work. Mm-hmm. You've been a professional then, not 99, but probably all the way back, like you said, 8 or 10 years old. Let me ask you this journey that you've taken as an artist. Mm-hmm. Throughout the years, have you always consistently been creating, or are there times that you've taken a hiatus, taken some time off, and what did that do for you?
Definitely. There's been several times through the years, actually, where I took, anywhere from a couple of years up to a 10-year hiatus. Just surviving, living, moving through things in life like we all do. And then you get hit with the inspiration. And that's when I think you're having to express yourself. You just have to. It's a must.
You're an artist that uses multi-mediums really to express yourself. Let's talk about the canvas first of all. Is the canvas still one of your favorite mediums, you think, and something that you find yourself coming back to?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love canvas, and actually, I only started doing the canvas about a year and a half or so ago. Again, probably the last batch was in 2009, I would say. And they just started pouring out. And actually, I found fluid art, which is quite a movement online. I mean, there's millions of people into pouring paint, various ways of doing it, various techniques in doing that. And so finding that, it just sort of filled some of the void. For me, when I do a canvas, I want it, when people look at it, I want them to know that I did it. I want them to feel that, sort of realism meets dreamy in-betweenness, which is what I really work to capture for people. So, if I'm achieving that, if it's inspiring in terms of the canvas, it's something that's also accessible to people. Yes. For years, I did the body painting, and one thing that the body painting did for me was sort of create an escape. I know that sounds strange. You'd be in front of thousands of people, but you would also be behind your model. And so it would sort of shield me from having to be social. I know that sounds strange, but that's just sort of how I dealt with it for a long time. And I was very successful in that arena. Now, my goodness, there's so many wonderful body painters. When I started doing the body paint with Kevin Larson, actually, Kevin Larson Presents was one of the first people that, sort of opened the door with opportunities at the club, at various events. It was really quite a phenomena to be on a block in the middle of a dance floor. I mean, some of that goes with age, where it's like, okay, I want to refine my environment a little bit more and have a little more peace and quiet and have my gluten-free bread in the cupboard when I need it and things like that. So, things change, and I think the canvas fits where I am now.
I mean, the paint combinations that you use, the strategies, the techniques that you're able to paint with, do you find that throughout the years as you gain more experience that you can almost become more riskier with what you're able to put on that canvas and really use some colors or imagination maybe you wouldn't have done before?
Absolutely, actually. And I've really stepped into this place in the last year of really allowing the paint to have its own voice in the piece. So sometimes, I'll have a very specific thing I'm going for, but the paint will take it into a completely different direction. And so it becomes a different sort of communication with the paint, and I am truly in love with the new style that I've come out with, because it's not just the paint, it's also how I'm applying the paint. Some of it's fluid, but also some of it is very much a pre-meditation, if you will, and so the paint will get poured, and then the paint becomes more like a piece of paper than an actual piece of paint, and then I can use that that in various ways to create a different dimension in the canvas, or maybe pop a little piece out where I want a little extra detail. I can use that extra layering in a really neat way. And I think it's really creating an individualized style for myself, which I'm very excited about. And then also wanting to incorporate more of the body painting into still life. So I've got some experimental pieces that'll be going up on this show coming up soon here on Santa Fe. And then if those do well, we'll go ahead and justify the expense of getting back into the studio, getting a proper model, getting the photographers lined up, and creating those images so that I have them to print and be able to create the images when they get much deeper once I go back in and I paint around these body paint pieces. So we'll see how those do. I'm very excited about pulling it all together. So yeah.
I mean, so you, as the artist, you choose the medium, be it paint, but yet actually the paint is chosen almost by the art itself, like you say, and the way you create it is almost chosen by the art itself of how it wants to be expressed out there. So I imagine there's a certain amount, like you said, of meditation or of actually listening or feeling what might happen there.
Yeah, and I'm finding it to be a very healing space to be in, to just sort of allow, I don't want to compare it to prayer, but for me it is a very spiritual process. It's been very healing. I've kind of gone through some things with physically here the last several years. It's been a little tough, and I have found it to be incredibly healing to get back to the art and to allow that to flow. And then also, surrender control, because, a lot of times, even in school and whatnot, you learn these technical rules, and if you don't stay within that box, but to me, that just kills the art. So as soon as you start to surrender and you let the paint do its part, it becomes a whole nother level of creativity, and I just love it.
Hence the word art. I mean, if not, it's a science.
Absolutely.
And so basically you've got to use the techniques, but yet then go ahead and go beyond that. I mean, obviously the best way to experience your work is in person. I mean, to gaze at it, look at it. But now with the World Wide Web, the internet, is it exciting for you to be able to create a platform out there where you can actually share your work really across the world?
Actually, it is. I've recently built a website. It's the artist Kelsie with an IE.com. And you can go, and it's wonderful. Right now I have about 30 pieces up. You can go in. It's quite a shopping experience. You go into the album first. There's 3 on the home page, and so you kind of choose which style you like. Go in there. There's 8 or 10 choices, and then you can choose the one you want. You can size it the way you want. You can have it on paper or on canvas, and the company that I work with in California will print that for you. So and then send it to you directly, or you can bring it through me here at the studio so that you can have that more personal contact. And so yeah, I'm finding that that's becoming more and more popular, and I'm excited about it because once we really get this back out there, it's going to really enable me to make the artwork very within reach for everybody. And that way, if you've only got $10 to spend, I can get you something with the image you like on it. And that's sort of my overall goal for connecting with everyone. Yeah.
That is pretty exciting. I mean, as a viewer experiences your art, what do you hope they experience? What do you hope they take away?
Well, I think it's going to be different for everyone, which is the nature of art. For me, I think people can take away a feeling. It's going to be different for everyone, and my pieces really go in all directions. Sometimes they're very dark and sometimes scary. I've even painted pain. So there's a way to really express those darker feelings, but to somebody else that might be very enlightening, or it really ranges through the eye. It just completely depends on the observer, really.
I mean, as an artist, you've created your entire life. I mean, that's a true artist. You're not limited by the medium, although your canvas is your favorite. You're not limited by it. I mean, art to you can be sharing a recipe, sharing a medicine, audio, sculpture, anything out there. Is that important to you to always be open to different mediums?
Very, actually, and it's awesome that you're asking that, because for me, I'm so multimedia. I love to sculpt. I love to paint. I love to draw. I love to set things up so they look cool. Just any way to sort of be creative. It's like, oh, wait a minute, give me your phone. This is such a great shot, and I'll do that downtown. I'll be like, give me your phone. You right now with the light, let me just capture it for you on your phone, and then I'll just keep walking. They're like, who is that weird chick capturing me on my phone? But they get the coolest pictures, And so, so I just kind of do that wherever I go. And I'm really hoping to do, even with the pieces we've done, some of the originals, I've been doing these sculpted stone frames that sort of accent the originals. And it sort of takes them to another level too, because it's a whole nother media on top of the multimedia. So they're quite nice. We'll have to make sure you get a picture of those.
As an artist, I mean, like you said, there's even almost a healing that you've been able to use art with, and I imagine other people feel the same way. Is there a certain amount of honesty, almost vulnerability when you're creating a piece of art?
Yeah, and vulnerability is actually something I think that you work with more when you're older. It's interesting. I've been reconnecting with a lot of people, kind of coming back out and reemerging, and that's probably the bigger piece I've been working on is the vulnerability. Just being willing to be vulnerable in a professional setting, because it is so raw. When you paint a picture of a really bad day, and you're letting people see that, it's very vulnerable. But it's also powerful because they have bad days too. It doesn't matter who's looking at that. Somebody's had a headache, for instance. I have a headache piece that I did that really was very healing for me, and it was very necessary to do that piece. And I call it headache with neuropathy, because I suffer with both quite frequently. But again, it's getting better, and to be able to visually sort of externalize that and be able to put that outside of yourself so that you can observe it, it's a very healing process for sure. Pretty pictures you can make, and all of the wonderfulness. So yeah.
As I viewed your work online, I mean, the use of color is amazing. Some of the pieces seem to jump off of the screen. There's almost there's a different energy from each piece. Do you feel that you can look at a piece maybe years later and almost capture that energy that you had back when you were creating it?
Yeah, and that's actually something that I'm doing, and the paint is helping me with that. But when I see something, that's what'll come out. And oftentimes, you try to do something very specific, and the paint, all of a sudden you're in this completely different space. And again, it's open-hearted. So it really does. It really, does become its own thing. And sometimes you're surrendered to that, or at least that's where I'm getting as an artist, is being able to surrender to that. And so, when we do a body paint piece in the studio, there's all of these lightings and technicals, and I'm not in that brain space. So I have to have that present to take care of that part while I'm doing the creative part. And I find that it's, to balance that too, and to expand that again and bring those mediums together, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to bring that to Denver and beyond.
That is exciting. I mean, for the folks out there, be it on a website, on your platform out there, or even in person, those folks that support you, your art patrons, do you almost feel like a connection to them, a commitment to them to continue your work?
Absolutely do, yeah. And honestly, I think it's connecting with people that's bringing me back out. It's not so much, making a lot of money or trying to outdo. I got there in my 20s. You get really competitive in your 20s. For me, it really is about connecting with people again, and not setting those things up. In a gallery situation, I'm not behind that model anymore. I'm going to approach you. I'm going to have a conversation. I want to hear what you have to say about my piece, because that's just as important to me as what I'm trying to say in it, because what I'm trying to say in it might not be what you receive. So I want to hear, too, what people think, and it's an honor when somebody hangs a piece in their home or in their office or anything like that. So, here we are. We're just doing it. We'll see where it takes me, huh?
See where it takes you. The last question I have for you would be the fact that you use the word spiritual. It's almost a spiritual process, the art. So by doing so, do you sometimes feel that you're not only the creator of this art, but sometimes in many ways a co-creator, that there are other forces that work with you that help you in the process, and do you find it rewarding because of that?
I've always been very spiritually connected. I've always been very aware of certain things, and that's different for everyone. But I consider that my relationship with spirit. And so when I started to really paint that, it was a things shifted for me, because it's not necessarily about me communicating. It's as much about a divine communication as anything else. And the paint really does access that voice, I guess would be a good way to put it. And so I just feel honored to have stumbled onto that little missing link and how to expand the work the way I've been wanting to. And now we will, as the media mixes more, because now that we have that fluidity down, and I have ways of refining where that goes and kind of getting some order to the chaos, if you will, and getting those, spirits, if you will, to just pop on out of there. It's different on each piece too. It really is. It sort of just takes it in its own direction, and I'm really hoping people like it.
I imagine they will. I'm sure folks are happy to see you back on the art scene, be it a hiatus you've gone through and you're back out again, connecting with the community. Obviously important to you and important to them. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is her website. First of all, on the website, that alone is pretty much basically a form of art when it comes to shopping. She gives you many options. You can basically click through, decide what type of gallery you want to go deeper into. You can also take a look at the Facebook page, shares a lot of her ideas out there. If you want to know what's going through the artist's mind, you can also take a look at the 2 cents that she provides right there on the tab in the website as well. A lot of great stories there. But this is, yes, this is an artist that basically began professionally in 1999, but this was a young girl who was sharing her art basically on a rock, making it accessible and affordable for people out there. We fast forward to the year here, and you've got an artist who is doing really the same thing. If you have $10 to spare, she can probably provide something for you. But if you want a beautiful piece for your office or your home, definitely you're going to find it right there online. Once again, that is the artist Kelsie, creating art that you will feel. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.